For the past 7 years, I've been reducing sales and selling down into what I call a paint by numbers kind of scenario, where I've mapped and plotted and drawn out and understood as many aspects of it as I can. And I'm going to walk you through in this video. I've spoken to lots of people in real life about this stuff, but I've never made a video on this. So in this video, I'm going to explain how I've turned selling into paint by numbers and what that means for you. Now, most people that I come across, and it sounds a bit flippant and dismissive to say, but they don't know what to say and they don't know what to do when it comes to selling. There's so many different situations, so many different options, ideas, permutations. It can all get a bit much. So when I started my business back in 2017, 2018, I needed to understand how selling worked. You see, I went from working for a corporate to working for myself, and it turned out I had a knack for communication, for creating what I then coined the term to be a clear sales message, where I help businesses to articulate exactly what they do and why people should wish to buy from them in the most concise and commercially viable way possible. But when I started, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I think it's called unconscious competence. When you're good at something, you don't really know why you're good at it. And for me, that wasn't good enough. I needed to understand, how was I doing what I was doing so I could break it down, and if I could understand it well enough to teach it, then I would understand it myself. That was kind of the focus that I had. So I needed to understand how selling worked. And in particular, the very first challenge was I was speaking to lots of people, and nearly every person that I spoke to, or certainly a large number of them, they had this great difficulty in explaining what they actually do, what they actually offer. It was really hard. So I was helping them with that, but I couldn't explain to them why that was the case. Not in factual, scientific, behavioral terms. It was just one of those things. But I needed to understand that. And I remember clear as day, I was in this pret-a-manger on Baker Street in central London. I'd stopped in between client meetings, gone downstairs for a coffee, and I was sat there and I thought, I need to understand why this problem exists. And funnily enough, this is something I took out of my clients and students to the present day, is you've got to articulate the problem that you solve and demonstrate your understanding of the problem, because that demonstrates your ability to solve it. But when I walked into this prep, I had no idea why people found it difficult to explain what they do. But by the time I walked out, I had. And it's because I found this on Wikipedia. And it's called the false consensus effect. Now, Wikipedia defines it as the tendency for people to overestimate the degree to which others agree with them. But for me, it's that classic image of the two people. There's a number on the floor. This guy sees a 6. This guy sees a 9. It's a matter of perspective. I'm seeing things from a certain angle, and to imagine it from another angle is quite difficult. So I presume that you see it from the same angle as me. And that's the official cognitive bias perspective terminology for the problem that a clear sales message solves. It's called the false consensus effect. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So I created a page on my website so I could share that with clients. Because in my other job, what I ended up doing was creating lots of resources. And I found this great power in when somebody asks you a question, you can say, oh, I'll send you a link about that. It's in your inbox. It makes you look really prepared and professional. But I'm just preempting things and typing things down, not rocket science. So I wanted to create a page on my website that I could share with clients. It ended up looking something like this. I made a little video on it, the false consensus effect. And that was back in 27th of September, 2017. That was when that web page was published. So quite a few years ago now. So from the false consensus effect, and I'd never really studied sales and marketing. I landed in a sales role, found that I was quite good at it, but I didn't really understand why, apart from I've got a good work ethic. So then I was introduced to the world of cognitive biases, things like the false consensus effect, certain ways of thinking, correct or otherwise, that as human beings we're subject to. That then led me into things like logical fallacies, heuristics, wordplay, linguistics, basic human behavior, all sorts of different things. And before I knew it, I was starting to amass dozens and dozens and dozens of individual factors, behavioral things and situations and all sorts of things that pertain to how to sell effectively and how to achieve certain things. and how to lose people and deter them in the conversation. So from there, I ended up going to the real world. So I was looking at the selling situations that I was in and I had been previously, and I was looking at factors like the intention behind somebody in a conversation, their behavior, the thoughts and feelings they're having, the consequences of things happening or not, and the implications of the selling situation overall. I'm just looking at every single aspect of the selling situation. And I spent a lot of time on the tube going in and out of London. So I was looking at messaging also, the same kind of things. Why does that advert appeal to me? Why does that advert appeal to me? Why does that messaging land? And why doesn't that messaging land? And I was dismantling everything and trying to understand it. I was looking for what actually works in a real world setting. And like I say, before long, I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these individual strategies. Some of them already documented, like the false consensus effect. They were established real things. I didn't create that. I just found it and realized that's probably the reason why you find it hard to talk about your business to people. And some of them, and I'd probably say at this stage, most of them, I've had to create to talk about certain situations and coin terms that make sense so people can understand. Because the false consensus effect needs to be explained to you. You can't really guess necessarily, depending how clever you are, you can't really guess as to what you think that is from the name. But for something like this, you probably could. So demonstrative competence was a term that I coined. It sounds really fancy, doesn't it? I put two words together to mean something. So this is, if I come to offer you personal training and I'm fat, I'm not demonstrating competence, am I? But if I come to offer you personal training and I've got a six-pack and big arms, I am demonstrating competence. So this is something that you must have if you want to, and if you see here, if you want to convert buyers, you need to have demonstrative competence. You need to be seen to be doing well in the things that you're talking about, because if you're not, then people will lose trust in you. So again, made a video, made a web page, made an image, and then I created diagrams of as many of them as I could across these hundreds and hundreds of different things to explain some of them. So this one in particular is for having what I call a simplified domain. So your website might be here, your-website.com, but the hyphen makes it difficult for people to remember. They'll just go to yourwebsite.com. Generally, that's how people guess. So what I was suggesting to clients was, if we get a different domain name, a better domain name, like obviously buymystuff.com is going to be a fortune, right? But buymystuff.com or something better like that, you can just redirect it, like redirecting your post. But by having that simple diagram, that was helping it to land with people so they understood. I also then found real world examples for each one of these things. So this, which I call a rotating message, and for a lot of them, there probably is a proper term for this, but I don't really care, because I'm trying to find names for them that are relatable to the every person so they can understand it. So a rotating message like this. So today is a great day to automate your team handoffs, leads, marketing campaigns, etc. So they can talk through lots of different things, but without having a big list. They can just rotate it. And secondly to this, the fact that this is moving, we have something called motion bias, where our eyes are drawn to something that moves. So they're kind of hitting two birds with one stone there. Then, and I can still smell the smouldering from my brain when I had to do this, I linked them all together. So I took the false consensus effect, and then I realized that what I call the me first effect, so the fact that people are selfish and looking after themselves, that's kind of linked in a way, because I think in a certain way and I'm thinking about me, they're kind of linked. And I'm also buying something that I want, not what you think you're selling me. So these all fall under this aspect of perspective and how we view the world. So from attracting to connecting to converting to following up to losing the sale, keeping buyers happy, increasing spend, maximizing LTV, on and on and on. I went through every single one of them. And I remember the nights I spent doing this, and I'd sit there and look at the false consensus effect and think, okay, which of these other hundreds and hundreds of things is that connected to and why? No mean feat, but I'm glad I did it, because it means when you look at these things, you can see similar things and the kind of the spider web goes out, and it's as useful as possible. Then I categorize them, like I say, so to solve common sales problems. So things like, how do you differentiate in the marketplace? If you think about, how do I differentiate in the marketplace? And so, right, tell me, many ways as possible, give you £10,000. How many ways do you come up with? What are you going to come up with? Maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe. I found there's over 170, and there's more than 117 now, but there's over 117 ways you can do it. From the big things to the small things, but there's over 117 ways you can do it. And they're also then split, you can't quite read that unfortunately, but they're then split into these subcategories here. So it's just a labyrinth of information. And if you go back to people don't know what to do to sell, people don't know what to say to sell, I've got absolutely everything they need. And the few people that I've spoken to at this point and had conversation with and shared my methodology with, their minds are blown by the level of detail. And it's just really nice for me to see, because I spent literally, at this point, I'm calling it my life's work. I've spent years and years and years of my life developing this stuff, and it gets very granular. So from differentiation to conversion, and again, what can you do to convert people? How many ways could you come up with? I've actually got over 200 at this point. That image says 186, but there's well over 200 different things from the small to the big, and again, they are then subdivided into these different sections. So there's no end of strategies and things that you can try, and they're all proven. These are things that come from, if you remember, messaging, real-world situations, behavioral science, neuroscience, linguistics. It's not stuff I've made up. This is stuff I've documented. Big difference. I've documented this stuff from the real world. And then, speaking of documenting them, I ended up with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things as pages on my website. And a very lovely lady that I know called Josephine, we're on a call one day, group coaching call. And she said, "Oh, James, I bet you've got all this stuff neatly organized in a neat little spreadsheet and subcategorized, etc." And I distinctly remember that call because I kind of laughed. Yeah. Like you do when somebody's kind of caught you out. I was thinking, no, I don't have that. Honestly, it took me, bearing in mind, like documenting everything took years and years and years. Just putting it into one place, putting it into a spreadsheet. Obviously, I have to blur it because I can't give away too much stuff because I charge for this kind of stuff. I've got the most labyrinthine spreadsheet. To say it took 3 weeks just to cut and paste and populate everything would be an understatement. But I have a fully populated, fully interlinked reference point for my own personal use at the back end, so I can see and understand everything that I've got. If only Josephine knew on the call. I didn't have it at that point, but thanks for the nudge. So now, well, after over 7 years of creation, and I spent a long time in creation, and an average week, probably spend anything from 2 hours to 10 hours creating content, documenting things, filming things, cross-referencing them, creating diagrams, looking for examples, populating all the different facets of that spreadsheet so it's as useful as possible. But my creation phase is pretty much over now. I've got over 750 strategies available to me in all those different permutations, all interlinked and all proven. More importantly, I've made over 30 different individualized courses for solving those specific problems like differentiation, conversion, attention, so on and so forth. And I've finally admitted to myself that, because I am a perfectionist, but I think my methodology at this point is pretty much 99% complete. There's not a great deal I can be adding at this point. I'll still add things as time goes on, and I'll embellish what I already have. But in terms of the basic structural functionality of how do you attract somebody, connect with them, convert them, follow them up, handle objections, charge more money, etc., the list goes on, I'm 99% sure I've got it all covered. So finally, I'm selling the courses that I've created, selling the resources that I've created after spending so long putting them together, and I've been using them with my clients the entire time and using it to cross-reference and explain all the concepts that I use for my regular clear sales message consultancy clients. But now I'm selling the courses that I've created, and I'm revealing my exact plan to do so. I've seen people do this before, and it's quite exciting, so I want to do this. Let's see how it works out. But I want to do this, watch me as I do it, kind of documenting, not creating, Gary Vaynerchuk style video. So I'm going to reveal my exact plan to sell my courses, how I'm linking it all together, what I'm doing, and hopefully I'll be documenting my success along the way as well. So that is a brief whistle-stop tour of how I turn selling into paint by numbers. I'll put some links below so you can look at some of the individual things I've created and the courses, etc. But I'll catch you in the next video where I'm going to start to break down my strategy for linking everything together, selling the courses, and essentially making a self-perpetuating evergreen machine, or funnel as you would probably call it, but an evergreen self-perpetuating machine where 99% of the work is done and the machine can run itself, and I just need to get eyeballs through content, through ads, into the mix and into what I've created. And that, if I'm being perfectly transparent with you, is the nature of these more longer form YouTube videos. So I've been publishing a daily podcast for the longest time. At the point of recording this, I've got well over 700 episodes that I've recorded and no signs of stopping yet. But that's never really been designed to sell this stuff. Now I'm getting into drawing attention to what I've created, bringing it to the marketplace, because like I said, I'm 99% sure that it's 99% complete. And I know it can really help a lot of people who just don't know what to do or what to say to sell. I might be intimidated by traditional sales trainers and sales techniques and all this kind of stuff. And my communication style, my teaching style, hopefully it'll come across in this video, is just very plain speaking, very straightforward. And it's astonishing how many of those 750 plus strategies are completely free for you to actually implement, really easy to do so. And a lot of them can work instantaneously when you actually put them into practice. So no theory, no big promises, no kind of smoke and mirrors that you get with most people that teach you how to sell. I think I'm actually, quote me on this if I'm wrong, and if I start to sound a bit big-headed, just let me know. But I think I'm the only person who's ever done this. I'm to date, the only person that's documented every single facet of sales communication down to the absolute minutia. So I can give you a play-by-play account of what to do and when and how, and explain it all to the nth degree, and it's all interlinked. Anyway, I could talk about this stuff for hours because it does excite me. That's how I turn selling into paint by numbers. Join me in the next video where I'll be explaining how I'm going to bring this to market and, like I say, create my perpetual evergreen course content machine. Thanks for watching.